Developing a tech product sounds like a dream job. Definitely a lot more fun and a lot cooler than what most of us spend our days doing. But as is often the case, the rewards can mask years of endless work, angst, and despair before finally getting a product to market and then holding your breath and hoping that customers will buy and that suppliers will deliver. I'm Jane Singer, and thank you for joining us in today's episode of our Launch to Legendary series, where we get to hear from entrepreneurs and innovators who have taken the ordinary and turned it into the extraordinary, who have built their businesses by seeing opportunities in inopportune circumstances, who've defined success in their own terms. Together we'll be able to learn from their experiences and be inspired by what they've achieved. In this episode, we'll be getting up close and personal with what it takes to launch a successful new tech product. Meet Shay Gerhardt, founder of Butterflies, groundbreaking new earbuds that you can literally wear all day and even sleep in. Butterflies are disrupting the earbuds market by offering an alternative to those often uncomfortable molded plastic earbuds. Shay realized that while comfort was critical, people also wanted outstanding audio quality, so she designed Butterflies to include state-of-the-art sound, we're talking music industry professional quality, and equip them with productivity AI-based hardware. While Butterflies are currently selling so fast that suppliers can't keep up with the demand, the road from concept to commercial success was a roller coaster ride of high highs and low lows. Shay will be sharing her story, including the most challenging part of taking Butterflies from concept to market and how she overcame this, the biggest lessons she learned launching a successful startup, and what led her to develop Butterflies and how she came to disrupting the earbuds sector. Innovation plays a critical role in keeping any company competitive. However, finding the right people who can solve problems, develop best-selling products, or successfully lead teams continues to frustrate many companies. That's why leading corporates and even small to medium-sized enterprises look to AsiaNet consultants to help them find the right talent. Since 1988, AsiaNet has been working in partnership with its global clients to help them make the right strategic hires. They have a well-earned reputation for being able to fill even those difficult-to-fill positions. So if you need to recruit new talent, or you think you might be doing that soon, head on over to their website. That's asianetconsultants.com, asianetconsultants.com. Now let's sit down with Shay and find out what it takes to launch a successful tech product. Shay, I am so delighted to have you as a guest on A Seat at the Table. I'm really excited to hear about what you're doing. I think that, it's interesting from a product development point of view. I think everybody spends a lot of time on their phones and listening to content. Music is such an exciting topic for everybody, as well as online learning. So I think maybe what we'll do is we will just dive in and start with, why don't we start with the fact that you've developed Butterflies, right, which is sort of a barrier-breaking earbud product. Maybe start out by telling us about the product and why do we need to get a pair?
All right, well, I'll tell you why we built it or how we built it,
sure.
Then why we built it.
All right.
The proverbial why. So I was in the music industry, in the gaming and mobile space for most of my career. And my expertise has been going into crowded marketplaces that haven't had a lot of change over time and really finding a direct path into breaking through that clutter and growing the business. So, but I also listen to a ton of audiobooks and podcasts. I mean, that moment when you get, and we talked about this earlier, but that moment when you get like 20 minutes to yourself, when you get whatever it is, you're commuting or going to the grocery store, going for a walk, and you get to listen to that content that sort of feeds your soul and your curious mind. I mean, those moments are just such precious little brain vacations in the middle of the day. And so I did a ton of that, but I would ask my friends, like, hey, have you listened to this podcast or have you listened to this audiobook? And they'd be like, no, I can't wear earbuds that long. They hurt, they fall out. I get that achy feeling, which I didn't actually have a ton of issue with that. But one night we were in Colorado, which is a huge ski area. And one night we have 3 little boys and my husband was like, hey, why don't you go skiing tomorrow by yourself? So I was so excited, but you have to leave really early in the morning if you want to have, they call it first track. So being able to ski on the powder, fresh powder. And I fell asleep with the AirPods, the wired AirPods, which is the same design as it is as the wireless AirPods. And I fell asleep with those in my ear, and I woke up with that crazy aching, like sore feeling.
Oh, yes.
So in the morning, I was so excited about my day. I was like, I'm not going to let this ruin my day, but I can't go the whole day without listening. So it's called a plastic clamshell design, and in that clamshell is there's like a seam down the middle. And so I split open the AirPod. I took out the components and put the components in my kid's swimmer's wax.
Wow.
and, and then wore it comfortably all day underneath my ski helmet. The sound environment was so much cleaner because the seal was better.
Wow.
And I mean, it wasn't perfect. My hair would get stuck in it, and every once in a while the speaker would get covered with it. But it was such a enjoyable experience. So the next Monday I came into work, and to my CFO, who's a good friend of mine, I was like, listen to what I just invented.
Right.
He's like, oh, that has to exist. Right.
Right.
So we spent a long time like figuring it out. Like, besides me and my friends, is this a major problem? And it turns out long-term comfort and fit is the number one complaint in the earbud industry. And the reason is the human
Wow.
ear is constantly moving when you talk and chew and exercise. And so that constant movement against a hard clamshell design, plastic design, causes continual friction with your ear, causing ear fatigue. The other reason is the sound vibrations that come through that plastic material. That causes, it's called cartilage, sound cartilage fatigue. And then the last one is that when your ear is constantly moving against that hard material, it scoots it out of your ear.
Right.
So we built an earbud that continually moves with your ear, and the longer you wear it, the more comfortable it becomes because it works with your body heat. So it gets more comfortable over time. And so that's how we came about it.
Wow, that's really excellent. And it's interesting you bring that up because I have always found earbuds to be incredibly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And for the exact reason you say, particularly the ones that are out of that molded plastic. And I thought, well, it must just be me because I see everybody else wearing these things and they seem to be okay. So I must be the outlier. So it's interesting you brought that up. And I think that it's really fascinating that so inadvertently, right, you came
Yeah.
up with this solution of using that swimmer's wax.
So it's interesting because the earbud was really invented 14, 15 years ago with the iPod. So it
Right.
was invented for 20 minutes of listening. And the industry has seen enormous growth. Like, it's projected to be a $152 billion market in the next few years.
Wow.
But that is because of use case. So the content we're listening to, I mean, even though the earbud hasn't changed, the content we're listening to has changed dramatically, and the way we're using it has changed dramatically. It even increased over the pandemic to the point where now your earbud, I mean, you don't leave home without your phone, your wallet, and your earbuds, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so that it is, I think this is sort of what my expertise is. You go into a market that is growing and big, but has had little change in the space. I mean, there's Bluetooth technology became stable enough for the wireless experience in 2017. And so that change was huge. It's more of a technical change to the consumer, you know, and that's nice to have that. But in regard to being able to the content we're listening to and adapting to that, the big guys have just not done it because they've seen huge growth. So they have no incentive to change, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting sort of a conundrum that you stumbled upon and you've managed to find a solution to. I mean, what was the most challenging part, right, of taking butterflies from this incredible concept and bringing them to market?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I always joke that being in a startup is like going from setback to setback with enthusiasm.
Oh, that's a
Right.
good way to put it. Yeah, it's true, right?
I mean, everything is challenging. I mean, it took us 3.5 years to find design and a material composition that would work in this experience. I mean, when we started, everyone I talked to in the industry in this space was like, "There's no way you can do it. You can't do it. It's not possible." but we did it. And it was very hard. We failed and failed and failed and failed and failed. And then we did it. And so that it takes a lot of like, I don't know, I want to say mental energy and a
Right.
lot of support and an amazing team to keep going. And I don't want to be cliche about it, but that really is it. Like you just need to be able to keep going and that persistence, because there was plenty of times where we thought we had got it. We'd get into the injection molding systems and it wouldn't go through the machine, or like it was just like one thing after another, or it would fall apart, or it wasn't durable enough, or all the different things you can go through, and or the sound was getting muffled. But now we've had an environment where the sound is actually we were using a really high end speaker system, so that is doesn't exist in this price point range. So there's a mid price point range is $200 to $500. The higher end is like $2,000,
Right.
and our speaker system comes from that higher end
Wow.
because we wanted the full nuanced balance of the whole sound spectrum
Right.
versus what everyone in our space does, which is overblown bass levels. So
Right.
you hear the
Right.
big bass levels. I mean, what's interesting is, so when we did a ton of research on this space, again, like when you're entering a big marketplace, you need to have, a rub. So you need to be so different than anything else in the market so that you can cut through that clutter. When we did the use case analysis on how are people using it, heavy earbud users are using their earbuds from 1 to 7 hours a day. And while these people love music, they're listening to their music on their home stereos and in their car stereos. They're not listening to music all but more than like 15 minutes a day on their earbuds.
Oh,
Earbuds are
really?
used for audiobooks, podcasts, streaming videos, and audio and phone calls, obviously. And so we have gone unapologetically after what we've termed created a new vertical in the space called the spoken word vertical. And we've
Wow.
designed everything around that consumer, because that is the people who need us the most, right? They're the ones who need the most comfortable earbud in the world. And so we
Yeah.
did done that for them.
Wow, that's so interesting. And I really like the way you so narrowly define that niche and understand what they want and how they use earbuds, because we would typically say that people mainly use them to listen to music. And so you would be optimizing for music sound quality. And I think it's really interesting that you went deep on that and actually identified that people aren't listening to music primarily in earbuds. Really
Yeah,
interesting.
it is interesting. And so we joke that, every earbud in the market talks about music, right?
Right.
And they use artists or athletes to promote the music aspect of it. And we say we're flipping that on its head, and we're making our like sexy ambassadors the Malcolm Gladwells of the world.
Right.
It's really like their brains that we're after.
So interesting. And I think you're right. You know, it's interesting is I've had people on this show more frequently than I would have thought who are talking a lot about this kind of what they call virtual learning, right? Or a lot of back and things that all involve learning via apps, and a lot of that is, people would be listening on their phone, or maybe even using headphones with a desktop if they're, or a laptop if they're in an environment where they're not by themselves. So I think you're absolutely right. We don't look at it that way, but in fact, it is actually a huge use case.
Yeah. And it's just because it hasn't been marketed that way, but we're changing that.
Yeah. Now you talked about some of the struggles that you had. Were they sound like they were mainly on the product development side of things? Is that the case?
Yeah, I mean, we had obviously we just went through, and you know this better than most, but we just went through the arguably the biggest crisis in supply chain management.
Right.
And we just had to be as gritty as possible. I mean, we had like during it, like we were trying to get our last round of alpha testing out and beta testing out. And we had a component that was coming out of Norway,
Right.
and everyone was shut down. And I was like, we just need can we just, get 5,000 of them?
Wow.
And he's like, I can't get them. And they're in the warehouse. And I was like, well, can I fly out there? Like, I probably couldn't have even gotten there, but he's like, all right, listen, my brother-in-law lives there. It lives in the town. I'll see if I can get him in. And he went in and got them for us and shipped them to us. I mean, like
Wow.
this is the stuff where you have to get like super gritty, where
Right.
something is going to come up and you have to adjust for it. I mean, one of the things, and this is sort of a good problem, but we have demand has far outstripped supply for us,
Excellent.
and which is awesome. But it's also like, okay, we don't have enough demand. We haven't gone on Amazon yet because we can't get enough inventory in the door because we sell out of every inventory we have in house. And so we have just switched to a much larger manufacturer who can manage about 50,000 units a month for us,
Oh, wow.
which is awesome. But that, it's a process where we went completely dark in the market, meaning no marketing at all. And then we went on back order. Shockingly, like we're still averaging like 25K a month in back order.
Wow.
Which I just am so thankful for these people who are like willing to stick with us. So,
Yeah.
but to your point, like we have been like, we'll give them a free audiobook, or we'll give them a a subscription to masterclass, because our people, like this is a group of people who are curious, open-minded people, and they love learning online.
I think that's a really good point. And it's wonderful to hear that you're getting such traction in the market. I mean, of course, it's frustrating if you're not able to get the supply, but it's sort of nice to have more demand than supply than the opposite, which a lot of people have, which is a lot of supply and nobody buying.
And we're very thankful for that. I mean, a lot of companies, and I think 99% of most startups, get to market and have to pivot and change
Right.
their business model. We did a ton of work prior to launching. I mean, because this is, we're dedicating our lives to this, but we did a ton of work to make sure that there was a demand for what we were offering, to the point where we were even buying dummy digital advertising, selling the product to people, and then returning their money,
Right.
to make sure we could sell it, right? And the talking points were working, and this concept of, that moment when you get to be able to feed your curiosity with the sort of learning experience, that is to make sure we could create that emotional attachment with people. And we've been lucky, like our first product we launched on the market, we still have that product. It's still selling really well.
Wow.
We've launched 2 other products since then, updates to that. And it's been a cool experience. And it's just so interesting when you get it into someone's hand after building it for 5 years.
Wow.
And you've just delighted someone. I mean, I can't tell you. That is the coolest experience I've had in my career.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's funny how it works like that, right? People think that your big joy is going to be when you make these multi-million-dollar either years of revenue or IPO or something, but actually, and I totally understand what you're saying, the fact that somebody appreciated what you did is hugely rewarding, especially if they tell you they liked it. If they tell you that it's really good, or people will say, I listened to your podcast, I really enjoy it. I mean, you're just like over the moon. And I mean, people listen to the podcast, it's free, but you're right. It's very rewarding.
It is very rewarding. I mean, one cool thing we started doing, just because we only hire people who are curious. I mean, on our weekly call, everyone makes a recommendation of something they've been listening to that they were into, because there's actually a discovery problem in podcasts, and so the number one way people are getting podcast recommendation is peer-to-peer recommendations.
Right.
So since we were already curating this list and we really care about it, we started sending it out to our members once a week, and that weekly recommendations, that we call it this week's top listens. Just that recommendation thing that we're doing on a weekly basis has grown like almost tenfold of what people have bought earbuds, which is really cool. We have a 66% open rate.
Wow.
I mean, and that's the only way we get to know if they're engaged in it, right? And so that's been really fun. And now we have, I think 20% of our members are making recommendations back to us so that we can listen to new content. So it's been a really cool experience around this brand that we're building.
We're going to take a quick break now, and then we'll be right back.
We were hiring when we were making 50 to 100K monthly losses.
And why? Welcome to episode 1.
I can't think of a single founder who's been around for a decent amount of time in business who hasn't had their tunnel of year. This was that year. We're going to be okay, yeah, Sheree. Some are going to hear this and think, you TDP. But hear me out. You only have to do the math to understand that very soon we were $500,000 down.
I think that it is really interesting to hear how you've tackled some of these challenges. And it sounds, I mean, have you officially launched, or are you still in the beta stages? Or the
No. So we launched a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And yeah, we're on the market. It's been great.
You just need to have more supply, right?
Yeah, which we will. I mean, we just launched a new manufacturer last week. So in preparation for Q4 holiday.
Wow.
And
Excellent.
It's been awesome. And I mean, that's the interesting thing. Like, it was clear that our old manufacturer, while they, sold us a different story, or more of a prototyping manufacturer. I mean, this
right.
space. But,
yeah.
And these guys are way more professional without even doing new development work. Everything is improved. So,
right.
Which has been an awesome experience and unexpected. But so, yeah, we're glad about it.
Yeah, that's great. And coming out before holiday is wonderful, because I think that, I mean, it is a tough season that we're heading into, but if you have a really hot product, I think that's the kind of thing that will actually sell even in a tough economic environment. Just my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, that's the nice thing. I mean, this space and then consumer electronics space in the last 3 economic downturns have not been affected by that, mostly because this has become such an important way of life. So that has been nice. I mean, we're not seeing any slowdown, even when we're on back order.
Wow, that's really good. Now, as an entrepreneur and a founder of a successful startup, and I'm very glad that previously you brought up the fact that really what it comes down to is having that ability to hang in there through thick and thin, because you're absolutely right. People think there's some kind of secret sauce, and it really comes down to tenacity. But beyond that, what was the biggest lessons that you've learned?
I mean, I would say if you're interested in getting into it, just know, like, you need a support system. If I didn't have my husband, who's just incredibly smart and helpful through this, that's been invaluable. You need an amazing team, because you can't do it all on your own. This is going to be the hardest you will ever work, and a lot of sleepless nights. Or I heard Ben Horowitz once call it, you'll sleep like a baby, like every 2 hours wake up crying.
Right. So true.
But it's incredibly rewarding. I mean, this is the best thing I've ever done in my career. And like I was saying earlier, like, just getting something into the consumer's hands where they're loving it, and then they come back and purchase another one because, like, it's awesome in that regard. But it is a ton of work, and it takes a ton of guts and constant courage. And there's a lot of times where you're like getting rejected, and then you have to pick yourself up and go at it again. And that can weigh on you a little bit. And but you just have to believe in what you're doing. The other thing I would say, which again, to the point about pivoting, make sure there's a market for your idea, what you're after. There's a book that I really appreciated called Discipline to Entrepreneurship by Bill Ayet, which was so good because it helps you go through a deeper understanding of product market fit.
Right.
Because a lot of times people get to market and they can't sell it because there's not quite the audience, there's not the demand and that kind of stuff. So really do your homework beforehand.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. And it's not easy to do that. I mean, people think it's easy, but it actually, as you're pointing out, just doing that market research is tedious, and you have to put aside a lot of preconceived ideas that you have about things to be able to maybe accept the fact that something that you thought was good really isn't good, or that you need to make changes to it. So I think it's good that you brought that up. In terms of, and I guess, I don't know if this is a fair question to ask, but how do you balance between, on the one hand, being able to accept when people tell you that your product maybe isn't a good fit for the market, or they don't see an opportunity in it, versus having to sort of, push through that because you believe in it. I mean, how do you parse that? It's not an easy thing to do, I'm sure, for many.
It's hard. That's a great question, because you think about it, like, I think Steve Jobs is famous for saying, like, consumers don't know what they want, right?
Right, yeah.
But there's a little bit of a difference. Like, I think mostly he's saying, like, that was for feature sets. Like, he knew people wanted a cell phone, or he knew people wanted a personal computer, or knew that people wanted to be able to play music for long periods of time in case of the iPod. What he was saying is, let's take the iPhone for example. Like, prior to that, we had the BlackBerry, which everyone thought was the best in the world because the keyboard was so easy to use. And he was saying, well, no, people don't want the keyboard, because then what if you have to change the keyboard? What if you have different languages? We want them to have the ability to have it. And so adding haptics to it, so you still have the sort of physical reaction to your fingers when you're doing that, I guess the thumbs. So that's the kind of thing that he was talking about. So you still need to be able to sell something, like, make sure, that's the thing I think is the most important. Like, write the press release, do a digital buy, make sure you can explain this to someone in less than 90 seconds, 60 seconds or 30 seconds, and that they get it. So that's the thing that you need to make sure you can do, that you can actually sell it if you're D2C, obviously. I mean, for B2B, it's a little bit easier because you're going to have more time in that sales process, but still, they need to be able to get it right away, and they need to know you're solving a pain point for them.
Right.
So I guess that's where, I mean, it's a nuanced thing. I mean, you have to believe, and there's plenty of times where we believe more than anyone. I mean, and we have to continue to convince people, but when the people stop buying, that's when right?
Right. That's, like you say, that's 100% proof. So, looking at everything you've developed, which is really, groundbreaking, what's next? I mean, anything in the pipeline that we should be watching for?
Yeah, I mean, we're coming out with some pretty cool stuff. So one of the things that we did, one of the reasons that we went so heavy on this long-term comfort experience is because all the industry reports are coming out that the earbud will replace the cell phone in the future, which sounds outlandish, but over the watch and the glasses.
Right.
And that can't happen unless you have an earbud you can comfortably wear for long periods of time. So our approach to the market has been to sort of gain foothold in this space, allow people to be able to wear it for long periods of time, and then start to build towards the future. So for about 2 years, we've been building a SaaS platform on the hardware, on the earbuds, but it's wholeheartedly focused on our users, where, when you're listening to an audiobook or podcast right now, what they're doing is they hear a cool quote or an interesting fact. They will stop, pause, rewind, write it down. Pause, rewind, write it down. And it's just a clunky experience. So we have created an earbud where you can activate our earbud swipe or voice assistance. We will record the last 20 seconds, the next 20 seconds of what you were listening to, translate it to text, add the metadata, so who the podcaster is, the author, the audiobook, or the author or the platform, so Audible, Spotify. You can voice tag it. So this is for my paper on Genghis Khan. Sorry, wow. I love history. History books are my favorites.
Yeah.
And then save that on your profile. You can share it to your Evernote account or however you want to share it, or, send it to your friends and this is a cool quote I heard, right? But that is something we've been building, and that is such a cool experience for people to start to understand the power of the earbud and what that platform can do, as it is projected to be the dominant communication and computing device of the future. And so we're really building towards that future experience.
Wow, that's so exciting. And you're absolutely right. It is really difficult when you are listening to something and you may be listening while doing something else and you want to make a note of something you heard, and then you're scrambling to find a pen or a piece of paper or try to type it into your phone, but then your phone you're using to listen to this. And you're right. It's really, really cumbersome. So that's very exciting that you're developing that technology. I love that.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, no, we're really excited about it.
So, I think by now everybody's wondering where they can get their hands on a pair of butterflies. I mean, is there a website where people can go to order these?
Yeah, so it's butterflies, like earbud, Buderflys. So we say 1D, no T's.
Right.
Butterflies.com. I mean, eventually when we start to get more inventory, we'll go to Amazon. We just didn't have enough inventory at this point. Yeah, so we'd love it. And then if anyone out there is interested in being an entrepreneur or wants to ask questions, you guys can hit me up in LinkedIn.
Okay.
At Shay Gerhardt.
Well, I'm going to put all those links in the show notes. I think a lot of people are going to want to reach out to you. I'm super excited about what you've developed with butterflies, and it's just an incredible innovation that, you're right, actually answers a real need. So I hope that you're able to get that inventory sorted out so that all the people listening to this show and many, many other people will be able to get their hands on a pair as soon as possible.
Yes, I mean, we're starting the manufacturer. We got it solved. It just took a while. It was painful, but it's solved. We're running again. So, but Jane, thank you so much for having me. I just really appreciate it, and I appreciate your podcast. So,
thank you,
and your diverse group of people of people I haven't heard from, or people that I have heard of peripherally but not heard their stories. So I really appreciate what you're doing for the space too.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, I really feel fortunate to be part of this global community. And thank you so much for taking the time to be on a seat at the table. A big shout out to our sponsor, AsiaNet Consultants. AsiaNet is a specialist in recruiting top talent in Asian markets. Since 1988, AsiaNet has been working in partnership with its global clients to help them make the right strategic hires. They have a well-earned reputation for being able to fill even those difficult-to-fill positions. To learn more about how AsiaNet Consultants can help you find the best talent, check out their website at asianetconsultants.com. That's asianetconsultants.com. Thank you for joining me here on A Seat at the Table. If you enjoyed this episode or learned something from it, I'd love to hear about it. If you'd like to support the show, please hit the subscribe button. And if you can take a minute to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or other channels, that would be fabulous. And check out our podcast website, where you can find all of the episodes of A Seat at the Table and Launch to Legendary. That's seatpodcast.com, SEAT podcast.com. And if there's something you'd like to share, ideas, suggestions, or comments, please feel free to reach out. I would love to hear from you. Thank you again for joining me here today and being part of our professional community. I'm Jane Singer, and I'll see you in the next podcast.